Now, let's start. So welcome everyone to this first workshop of a series of do's and don'ts. So for information, we had this idea of these webinars with NCC Netherlands, with Andrea Moga. I don't know if she's here because she had some issues, but maybe she will join a little later. So this concept was discussed between CASTIEL 2 and NCC Netherlands. And we would like we wanted for this first session to discuss about the national days, the supercomputing days, dynamization sessions or equivalents that are organized in the NCCs. Because for this do's and don'ts session series, we would like to share among the NCCs, between the NCCs and maybe the series, to share what worked or not in previous experiences, to have a dialogue about what was tested in the NCCs, and this by putting the focus on various topics. So for instance, how to approach the industry stakeholders about the potential journeys that the NCC created for the customers, or any technical parts. So the idea here is to learn from what some of you, the NCC, already did, and see what could be maybe replicated or not in other countries. So here it's really to share experiences, to see what works nice, what is less working, so that you can benefit from each other experiences. And so for this first session, it will be, as I said, about the days, special kind of days that are organized in the NCCs to meet with industry stakeholders. And for this first session, we will have presentation from NCC Sweden, Spain, Greece, and Croatia. And here, so the format of this workshop will be the following. Each NCC will have around 5 minutes to present what they did in their NCC. And then there will be a short Q&A, also around 5 minutes per NCC. And when all NCCs will have presented, we will have a common global Q&A session. So yes, this is the first one. So let's try this format and we'll see how it goes. So now I will leave the floor to NCC Sweden, and I will leave Apostolos share your slides.
Just short question, the slides will be available, I assume, right?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen. So good morning for me. My name is Apostolos. I'm not from NCC Greece, but almost. I'm from NCC Sweden, even though I grew up in Greece. And I will be talking about our experience organizing industry HPC events in Sweden for the past 3 years. I didn't like the title to be do's and don'ts, so it's not. It sounded a bit dogmatic, but I will just be sharing some experience on what we did. This is work for us, and feel free to ask questions even as I'm speaking. So first of all, the scope of the ENCCS Industry Days has been to advertise our services and bring together the local Swedish and Scandinavian so far HPC ecosystem, so they can learn from each other and exchange opinions and what they've been working on. Our format was 2 days long. We thought that this would be a format that people don't get tired with this conference. It was about around 40 to 50 people, so it was like a mini conference, and it was short presentations, 10 to 20 minutes of basically businesses describing either success stories or what have been the research projects that they have, followed by panel discussions. Later, there were also presentations of institutions. We have had EuroHPCJU, CASTIEL as well, other NCCs, and national initiatives from Sweden to talk about what is out there in the HPC ecosystem. There were special topic discussions, panel discussions, and of course, one dinner the first day. So to discuss a little bit our experience so far, let's start with organizing. We have had close contact with industry well in advance before our industry days, so that the folk can just block their calendars. So it varies. Some companies were flexible, some others needed like half a year in advance to block their calendars. So we try to have personal invitations and contact with those people so that they can come to the event. We tried to make it as clear as possible on the presentation topics so we can steer the discussion where in the HPC thematic. We make sure that the presentations were not too academic, so that we sometimes research projects tend to over analyze and go into a topic in a quite academic way, which was not what we wanted, even though sometimes you cannot avoid it. And mainly we wanted success stories and use cases of HPC from businesses. We tried to create an environment where people could interact. So we tried to avoid this talk after talk after talk format. And what we did, we had the short talks followed by panel discussions afterwards. This has to be in premises where it allows that. So the room, the conference room that we used to use is quite flexible to that regard. And we also wanted some audiovisual capabilities, meaning that some microphone system, the ability of people to just stream their videos to the projector and so on. The panel discussions, as I said, was our focus. So people in the panel and people in the audience could basically ask questions to each other and discuss certain things. What we also seen is that long coffee breaks is a must. So people need this sort of break. And we've seen that during lunch breaks, coffee breaks and dinner, that is the most interactions that we get with people. We invite, of course, other NCCs and we try to have many companies and few academic groups, which is always a challenge because we are in this field of research and most of our collaborators are academic groups, which is, every year it's a challenge to have a sort of balance between those two. As a final slide, I'm going to talk about dissemination, how we spread the word and what we did later after the industry events. So first of all, we have, of course, the events website with the agenda, useful information like maps, restaurants, and so on. Presentation slides were uploaded after the event, so people could go and just see what they wanted to see, and of course participant list, an easy to reach participant list so people could actually contact with one another. Regarding branding, we have giveaways, booklets, flyers, the posters, stickers, like everything that can keep people engaged into what we do and try to remember us if they're not long partners of ours. Afterwards, LinkedIn posts and blog posts, tagging companies and people always helps because it creates some sort of engagement with everyone. As you see in the images here, we have the blog post, and of course, in the end, if there is a way to record of course, after the consent of the people that give talks, we upload the the short presentations online, so people can actually go back and see what's on. One thing that I didn't mention before, and I'm done, is that regarding the personal limitations, the second bullet there is that so far we try to have the event as close as possible, because the format within those 3 years has been changing a little bit year after year, and we're considering the next year to just open it up to a more large conference somehow, and we're still in talks about that. But so far it has been personal limitations and close to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Apostolos, and thank you for starting with NCC Sweden experience for these do's and don'ts. So let's continue with NCC Spain, and now so we will hear about your experience too. So we have Eugenia de Muller and Laura Martinez Calvo, and I leave you the floor to share your slides and your do's and don'ts.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Eugenia de Muller, and I'm representing NCC Spain along with CESGA, with Laura Vela. And today, well, I'm gonna share the screen. Let's see. Okay, you can see it, right?
Yes,
great.
screen.
Okay, so what today we're gonna represent the do's and don'ts from an event that we held last September, the 12th September. And the event brought together 23 attendees, where companies had the chance to showcase their projects and discuss their requirements with industry experts. So the participants, the event basically were participants engaged in activities to imagine how their ideal future, exploring supercomputing, big data, and artificial intelligence, and how these 3 aspects could enhance their competitiveness. So the conversations covered topics like technology access, and also highlighted the advancements across different sectors. So the event was divided in 3 parts. Firstly, the focus was on envisioning the future, and participants took part in it was like a forward-thinking exercise, projecting their 5 to 10 years ahead for their company, and they deliberated on different topics and on their idealist scenario based on supercomputing, big data, and artificial intelligence, and how they could access to the technology, how could businesses access more easy and in different calls that we have in Spain. We have the test bed that I'm going to talk about it later, but we also have calls from the rest, that is the Spanish Supercomputing Network. So different alternatives, and also about their achievements and how could they get these desired outcomes. Then during the second phase, participants acted as guides of the National Competence Center of NCC Spain. So they reflected how the NCC Spain and our role can help them to surpass the different obstacles, the limitations, and also their needs that might hinder achieving the envisioned future that they've thought in the first phase. So different ideas and insights were collected, and also different groups discussions, because there were 4 to 5 companies per group were discussing about this ideal scenario, the limitations, and how NCC Spain could help them to overcome these obstacles. And then the third phase, it was where participants created proposals to address, but more specifically, these challenges. So they worked together in different new groups, except from the EuroCC team that we were together. And after discussions, there was a final prioritization exercise where each participant, excluding the EuroCC team, selected 3 top priority proposals, and then the results were documented with each proposal and the prioritization ranking. So about this event, what can we extract from the events, and also from the one they did in CESGA and in other industry events that we had during last year? About the do's, we we can say that we have to include relevant case studies. So present relevant case studies of similar companies that have successfully implemented these things that NCC can offer for their competitiveness. For instance, we showcase how a manufacturing company optimizes its supply chain using supercomputer simulations to reduce costs. Then facilitate group work sessions. As I said, we organize group work sessions. So we did this with little number of people, 4 or 5 per group, and companies could discuss how they could apply supercomputing and how can they overcome these business challenges. Then invite leading companies in the field. So invite representatives from leading companies in supercomputing usage to share their experiences and best practices. For example, this day we have the dynamization session, but in the morning we have a divulgative session where we invite different companies to showcase their success with supercomputing. And there was, for example, a pharmaceutical research company, and it explained how they use supercomputing to accelerate drug development, like for medicines. So it was good to see how a company similar to you can get the supercomputing resources, how they get it, and how they implement it afterwards. And if they need it, we have a consultancy service. So we also show how NCC could help them afterwards. And this is related to the other point, that is to offer personalized guidance. That is what I said, to provide personalized guidance to companies interested in exploring supercomputing solutions. And we have one-to-one consultation sessions with them, with the ones who were interested in, and we can show them how they can overcome their obstacles and how can we recommend to give them, well, the different solutions. So this is in regards to the do's, and with regards to the don'ts, okay, so we highlighted that we have to ignore we cannot ignore specific concerns. So just don't solely focus on the technical aspects of supercomputing, but also address individually the company's concerns. For example, there was a company concerned about sustainability. So we were focused on how the use of technology could be used in a greener way. So take into account the specific concerns of each company. And if you cannot do it in the event, take it afterwards in the one-to-one consultation sessions. Then not offering direct interaction with experts. So to avoid limiting companies' interaction with supercomputing experts, we cannot do this. For example, don't leave participants without the opportunities to ask questions or discuss their ideas with more expert people, not just the NCC, but, for example, companies that have or had a similar situation, or experts in the area about supercomputing, because if not, they just have the basic idea, but they don't know how to implement it. In the third point, we have not providing adequate follow-up. So don't end the workshop without offering a clear follow-up for companies interested in exploring supercomputing solutions. So we follow up under this and inform them of which services and costs were more suitable for them. As I said, we just don't have the testbed, but we have other Spanish codes that they can apply it. And then we have also the EuroCC joint undertaking codes that if their resources are more limited, they can apply to them. And then fail to provide concrete application examples. So don't stick to the theory only, but it's essential to offer also concrete examples of how companies can use supercomputing in their daily operations. For this reason, we had also this divulgative session in the morning to show them the success from other companies similar to them. And just don't talk about the potential of supercomputing, for example, in medical research, but demonstrate how, for example, a hospital could use it and to analyze, for example, patient data or improve healthcare. So give concrete examples, because if not, they get just like a generic idea and they don't know how to implement it afterwards. And that's it. Okay, that's it.
Up. So now I will leave the floor to Lena for NCC Greece.
Good morning, everybody. If you give me a few instances to share my screen. I always have a bit of trouble doing that, but I should.
It's at the bottom.
I got it.
Yes.
I think you can
Perfect.
see it now.
Yes, full screen,
Okay.
perfect.
So in our case, I will, I guess, mostly be focusing on what Marie-Françoise has called dynamization sessions. In Greece, the SME, the industry is a little bit difficult to engage. So we have started with a sector that is already, let's say, seems willing to adopt HPC and engage, which is the medical and bio sector. So what I'm using one event as a showcase, let's say, just as a showcase, but I will be drawing from the experience that we've had over all events that we have organized, but also on the experience that we gained when we were invited speakers in conferences, etc., because this helped shape a lot how we are doing events in in recent times. So one such a sample is that we usually do a format, an online format, because since industry is a bit difficult to engage, for us it's even more difficult to actually, get them in a room, as was in the case, for example, of NCC Sweden. So we try to facilitate participation for them by offering half-day sessions on a particular topic. We usually do morning, afternoon. This one was a bit of an exception because it was a day-long event. We advertise rather broadly, but are mindful to take advantage of our personal connections and collaborations to advertise in a more targeted way with a personal email and ask people to please share it to their contacts if we have this kind of relationship, which we have been slowly cultivating with particular companies or particular company groups in the past. Of course, it goes without saying that we, of course, engage LinkedIn, our emailing list, newsletters, etc. So this sample that I'm giving here to give you an idea of what we do usually has a particular target audience that we also include in the promotion of the event so that people can find out if it's suitable for them. We usually do background presentations and give general HPC info, but we make sure to invite companies that share the success stories. And we have experimented with many times with the format of using a technical part and have found out that it's best suitable to leave in the end for people that might be development oriented or the more technical persons of a company. So that they know when they can log on if they're interested in technical aspects or in a demo session, a tool demo session in particular. So they know when they can log on, and people that are more high level, let's say more on the entrepreneurial side of things, they can know when they can, without a problem log off. So this is a big do, I would say. Contrary to Apostolos, for example, I did do do's and don'ts for the visualization. I promise I will be as brief as possible, although my slides are several. But they're just for the visualization, I promise. So we've learned that you should not rely on assumptions. So what is interesting in HPC in general as a technology might not be interested to the SME or the target audience. So you should be very mindful of not focusing overly on the technology aspects in a way that does not really translate into the business benefit. I've seen many times experts speaking enthusiastically about how many cores or how many nodes this and this JU supercomputer has, and then you see a blank stare at the audience because they cannot translate what this means. So you should not rely on the assumptions that what interests the expert is what will interest the audience. And a major takeaway from this, I think, is that the tone attracts the audience. I'm thinking of an event we did, which had the title Technology and Tool Training Snippets. And because Peter was asking a question before, we leave it a bit open, the invitation. I mean, with the dissemination and the promotion of the material is a bit open. So we ended up with a lot of students, for example, in that section that were very interested in tech and tool training snippets. So the tone attracts the audience a little bit. So you should, a big do is you should know the audience and you should speak their language. Okay, a supercomputer has this and this many nodes. What does this mean in terms of development time saved or money saved for a company that they will use the supercomputer? So in this aspect, success stories are a big help, because especially the Fortissimo and the EuroCC books that compile success stories, they focus on also giving the business aspect. Like, this led to this and this much gain in human resources, to this and this monetary benefit. So together with the technological aspect, it's very important to also focus on aspects that will interest some person that is more entrepreneurially oriented. And this will motivate them to look into the technology. I mean, I think we commit the mistake of thinking that the technology by itself is very motivating because we're enthusiastic about it, and don't realize that you actually have to know your audience, speak their language, and get them to be interested in the technology through the business side of things. So to do that, it's very useful to interact beforehand, to gauge their tone, to gauge the level of knowledge and the level of familiarity with HPC. And you should provide sufficient background knowledge if needed. So a don't also, following from that, is to not confuse the scope. Especially if you have invited speakers, make sure to give them indications and directions of how deep technically they can go. Because sometimes somebody, again, is very enthusiastic about the work, focuses a lot on the scientific aspect, and the audience cannot connect or engage with that at all. And this might be an expert that was an academic and has entrepreneurial experience. And if they actually shared the entrepreneurial experience, this would have been much more gainful, let's say, or much more interesting for the audience. So a trap can be that you have academics in the audience that they engage, but you should take into account, especially if you do it like we do, where you do a broader dissemination sometimes for some events, you should take into account that the audience composition may be mixed. So you could have the academics or business people that are more technical oriented that interact enthusiastically, but make sure not to lose the people that cannot connect with this technical level. So you should make sure that the content does match the title in this aspect. So if it's more SME oriented, it should also connect with this aspect of things, not only with the technical. So the converse in this aspect is to go for interaction in this kind of talk. So if you have to do a long scientific talk, maybe go for more interaction. Or if you do have to have a scientific talk, go for a shorter talk, like a 10-minute talk, so that you can keep even the layman's, the non-experts, non-technical experts' attention span. So if you have to go for a longer talk, for example, giving background information, explaining HPC in general, etc., then we have found that engaging the audience always is very useful for keeping them in the session and not seeing them slowly log off from the Zoom, which also happens. I mean, you can sometimes pinpoint when people actually lost interest because they log off from the Zoom. So if you engage the audience, this gives you also useful feedback. Because it gives you a better idea of who they are, what they're interested in, etc. And so you can use that to adapt on the fly, which is also something that we recommend. Be prepared, or prepare your speakers to adapt on the fly for the level of expertise or the profile, the composition of the audience. And we have had quite some success, or let's say nice comments from audiences when we used the Slido polls for questioning, for quizzes, for this kind of stuff, and QR codes to help them connect immediately with a resource we wanted to share. So this all keeps them a bit on their toes and keeps them engaged in the presentation at hand. So my last 2 points. So don't neglect the format. Again, maybe sometimes if you are more academic, of an academic background, or your speakers are, you may be enthusiastic about presenting the raw data, but again, if you don't connect it to the business benefit, you might lose a little bit of the audience or the engagement. And nowadays, events are recorded. This is the case in this one. So you should be very mindful of the fact that you will record events and you can record events, and very mindful of the fact that you can upload them on a channel such as YouTube, and make sure that you can exploit this. So don't neglect the format, because if you make sure that you end up with a beautiful video, let's say, or a nice video that you can upload and make sure that a viewer can engage with it even offline, then you have a very powerful tool that you can use to attract future, I'd say, SME engagements. So do aim for a polished look. Make sure to have well-rehearsed introductions, well-rehearsed introductory talks, that you have very well-rehearsed master of ceremonies, let's say. It can be useful to use a uniform Zoom background that you share with all the speakers, so that then this makes also, apart from giving like a very polished look to the viewer, especially, mind you, if you have like a very corporate-oriented person, they might look at things like that, like a nice branding, nice, the appearances. Sometimes, unfortunately, they matter because they are a first channel to convey expertise and seriousness. So sometimes it's nice to have, for example, a uniform Zoom background and stuff like that, because this will also help you in the post-production when you want, to isolate your videos and upload them on your YouTube channel. And do consider that the success of an event is, of course, the engagement rate and the participation, but also the material it leaves you with for the future. And the recordings, they can act as your calling card. It has been the case that we have some interaction with an industry and they're interested in a topic, and we have been able to say, oh, look, we have this recording from this event, so please refer to this link that we send you. So, in order not to exceed my time, I think I'll stop here, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you so much.
It's really going to be difficult to beat the previous 3 talks, especially the last one. So our day was slightly different. So it was not so much focused on the industry, but it was basically the first time that we did like a half a day, full day. It's more of a conference than if I compare it to what I've heard so far, where we basically we tried to present the benefits of the HPC to a wider community. So as I said, this will be slightly different from the previous talk, so bear with me. I'll try to be short, given that we do not have too much time. So as I said, it was not even a full day. It was the first time that we organized it. In the past, we also had a presentation of the Competence Center, but it was part of a different other conferences, so it was not one focused event. So here we basically had, we asked the EuroCC and EuroHPC people to participate, which proved to be a win, because people like when somebody from the outside actually comes, because then you can, during the lunch, get the inside information, which was for me particularly useful. And then we had so basically it was like 3 blocks. In one block it was the presentation of the EuroHPC, EuroCC, and then we had the presentation of the NCC and all the individual partners, because in our case we have different partners which are covering different areas like training, industry support for public administration and academia and so forth. And then we brought the SMEs which have already collaborated with us to show the benefits of the HPC technologies, which I think was the most interesting part for the audience. Also, we had one longer presentation, which was more academic oriented. And there we basically had the problem that the previous speaker mentioned with the loss of focus. But basically the SMEs kind of corrected it. And then in the end, we just had a panel discussion where we invited all the SMEs who presented their use cases to show and try to explain and answer to the questions from the audience. So the number of participants was 73. And if somebody's going to ask me how many SMEs were there, actually there were registered more of them, but in the end, physically, there were 3 of them participating. After the panel session, we had a lunch, and it was previously mentioned that the long breaks and lunches are really good, because then you can actually interact more on the individual basis. And after that, we actually had like individual consultations, where we invited in the invitation to all the people participating that companies can actually express interest and then talk directly to the members of the NCC. Unfortunately, most of those discussions were not achieved because the people who expressed interest did not show up, but then we followed it up later on via email. So I'll try to do do's and don't do's, which will pretty much sound like the previous ones. Start preparing early. Do use your EuroCC tool networks, which is really nice. We did not bring any COEs this time, but we're planning to do that in the future. As I previously said, try to get the people from the EuroHPC or EuroCC to come to Croatia, because that actually does bring a lot of people. Mix different participants. Fortunately, in our case, I think most of the participants in the end were from academia. But I think it was interesting for them because some of them are also planning to do some kind of startup. So they're going to become our SME users later down the line. Another thing is, in the end, we ended up doing a hybrid event, and this will basically fall into a category of don'ts. Unfortunately, you cannot get everybody to get there physically, but in the next round, we will cancel the hybrid part, because the people lose focus when you have somebody talking online, and then it's always the problem with the microphone that the online people do not hear anything, and so forth. And then rely on the email communication. Actually, in our case, 50% of the people stated that they got the information about the event via email. And I think most of these then basically fall into a line. If you know somebody, if you build your network beforehand, then you basically use their emails to fetch them directly. It was also mentioned, keep to the schedule. If you have a lot of academics or people from academia, the discussions can really go off rails. So you need to have somebody who is strict and who will not go into details, so that you actually keep to the schedule. As I said, the SMEs showcases, I think this is the thing that probably will bring us more SMEs. The NCC presenting what we do is more of a generic thing, and I think for them, as it was said previously, when they hear from somebody who actually managed to improve their business by using HPC, that's way more important than us saying, yeah, your HPC gives you that much of petaflops, exaflops, or whatever flops. Yeah, interactive panels, try to keep people involved, otherwise they fall asleep. And having people yawning in the audience is never good for your whole event. And lunch was, of course, a good thing. Then there was a question of sustainability of the thingies that we give them. Actually, as a part of the project, we already had some small flyers prepared. So basically, we only used those. We did not prepare any special things for this particular event. Because, as I said, it was more of a presentation of the NCC as a whole. With regard to the don'ts, avoid key speakers participating online. It's just better when you have somebody there, because these kind of events are more about the networking and less about the content that is being presented. And again, try to be concise. It was Lena stole all my things here. So avoid using overly scientific language, because you will definitely have a really mixed audience. And if you overload them with science stuff, they will just never go back. They will never come to the HPC. And yeah, in the panel session, you need to have, of course, moderator prepared, avoid improvisation. And for my final point, you can see our NCC members taking a picture in front of a projector. That would be a big no. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your attention. And now questions.
Thank you very much, Emir. Actually, it is very interesting to see also the view from another type of event again, and the experience. I would like to say a very, very warm thank you for the NCCs that accepted to participate to this first session of this series. So thank you to Emir, Laura, Eugenia, Lena, Apostolos. Thanks a lot. It was so interesting. So we'll see for the next sessions what we could prepare for the next session of this series with you or with other NCCs. Also, a very, very warm thank you from me to Andrea Moga from NCC Netherlands, because with Andrea we worked on this concept, and Andrea helped a lot with the questions here. So many thanks, Andrea. Many thanks to all of you for participating and for your questions, comments, feedbacks. This is so interesting. Of course, we can still contact each other directly to discuss that, or we will have other sessions to continue discussing all this sharing of experiences between the NCCs. So many thanks, and I wish you a very nice rest of the day and a very great week. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great
Thank you.
event.
Bye-bye.
Great speakers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.